Well, hey, look, we are TK Wrestling, and we're here. We're talking about school grades. You missed Matt's grade that he said before it
It's the
started. So
worst
gonna be
grade
a
I've ever
mystery.
gotten on any final, but the thing is, I just need to do it to pass, so or to get an A even. So I mean, I still have an A for the class, but the final was just.
Well, hey, you guys didn't hear it, but considering the grade he just told me that he got on his final, for him to still get an A means that he had some pretty good grades in that class.
I mean, the final just didn't turn out how I wanted to.
Was it like a 90.39 that you ended up with, or
No,
something?
I still ended up like a 94 or something like that. So
that means you got 100% in the class.
I just screwed up the final. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. And when you shoot something, sometimes you don't know what the footage looks like till you see it, and then you can't go back and refilm it. So the footage wasn't fantastic, anyways. So let's talk wrestling.
Well, let's talk about something that did have some fantastic footage, even though I'm sure Dai's being really hard on himself. Monday Night Raw just passed, and I think it was another pretty good show.
No,
again,
it was.
like you said, we're in the storytelling era right now. It's kind of what we're going to be doing, building a lot of stories up for those big PLEs. Backlash kind of feels like one of those filler PLEs, which I think a lot of people will agree is kind of a shoot themselves in the foot, product of their own demise by pushing WrestleMania back so far. WrestleMania is usually the first weekend of April, and they pushed it back 2 extra weeks. And then of all weeks to put it on, you put it on Easter weekend. Like, it was just, I guess I get the sentiment of like people are all hanging out. You want people to watch wrestling together. But as someone who had a lot of family in town, as you know, it was hard for me to escape to be able to go watch WrestleMania for both nights because I had family in town all weekend. So regardless of all that, the build for Backlash has been kind of weird. And while I think this episode of Raw was really good, I do think that there were some parts of the show that were also kind of weird. We just watched something before we started recording that wasn't on the show that we both agreed were like, why wasn't this on the show?
Yeah.
Why didn't we see this on live TV?
Like I said, there are two segments that weren't on the Raw if you're in the States, you said, and one of them was the Karrion Kross, which I'm okay with that maybe not being on there. I mean, that felt a little filler. It wasn't any like must see Karrion Kross, but the end of the show, I don't know when you want to talk about that, but that should have been there.
Yeah, and we won't wait all the way until the end. We can talk about that in a second because we're going to open up to Paul Heyman and Jey Uso opening up the show. And I think this segment was an absolute home run. I think between Jey Uso, standing his ground against Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman, literally about to pop an aneurysm right there in the middle of the ring, screaming so hard, dude. It's like you could feel the emotion. And then as you listen to him, you're like, man, he's kind of making sense. Like what he's saying, he seems pretty justified. And every villain is the hero in their own story, right? So to Paul Heyman, I kind of agree with what he said. Roman Reigns, I don't know that I necessarily agree with the whole, like, I built this and I made Roman what he was, because he did play a part of it, but that's also part of the, crazed villain, right? He feels like he's responsible for all the success, but not any of the failure. So, to him, Roman was the one that failed. And then when Roman failed, he was the one that walked away and left Heyman behind. And then whenever Heyman did get abused, Punk or Roman didn't come to his defense. So I see where he's coming from. And then you find out later on in the night that while he did probably mean some of that and it came from the heart, a lot of it was to manipulate Jey in order to get a title match for Seth later on in the night. But regardless of all that, I think that this was an excellent segment. I think it was fantastic for both men. And one line that I really loved that Paul said, he says, "You don't know how to yield that power and control," to Jey Uso. And so I just think that if the goal is to build up the legitimacy of Jey Uso for the fans watching, I think this and what happened later on the night did a really good job of that.
I'll tell you what this did. If you want, because what's the one thing that the new Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, whatever trio, whatever you want to call it, the one thing that they don't have until last night was hate. Think about it. They were still, Braun Breaker, Seth's curb stomps Sami Zayn at the end of the match, and they're still chanting, they're still chanting for him, so how do you finally get the heel to be a heel? You go after the biggest face. And that's what they had to do. I mean, the one guy that the crowd's that they haven't turned on, is Jey, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy. People will yeet it up. I'm waiting for it. Maybe, like I said, I told you my prediction of how Jey starts going heel, and it started Backlash just beating the ever loving tar out of Logan Paul. But this is interesting because I didn't see this coming this fast, right? I don't know when you saw this happening. Like I saw Seth going for probably Jay's title, but not like, and certainly not last night. You know, I didn't like that when that happened. I had to pause everything and be like, "Oh, Casey, what's up?" Because there's no way A, they take the title off of Jay this early, and then B, there's no way that they make Seth and his new coalition look bad this early. So I'm like, what are they gonna do? Like what corner have they backed themselves into? And luckily I texted you, you gave me the out, which ended up being the out. Yet again, Casey's third eye seeing quite clearly, you know, but
to be fair, I thought that Punk and Roman might come back, but
see,
yeah.
I knew Roman wasn't coming. Roman's on vacation for sure. And look at that. Like I said, Roman can't even sign my card. All right. So if Roman can't sign my card, he's not showing up just for a random Raw when he ain't got no stake in it. All right.
Well, this was the go home Raw though. This is the last Raw before the pay-per-view or before the PLE. And I just really thought we were getting.
He's not going to be a part of the PLE.
I just really thought we were going to get the tag match. I really thought we were going to get Braun and Seth against Punk and Roman right now. I really thought that was going to be, but that might be like a Clash in Paris thing or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's got to come down the line if that's going to happen. So I think Roman's taking a good 2 months off probably. I don't know when the next big PLE is. Like when was SummerSlam after Backlash?
Yeah. SummerSlam is in August.
Okay, so there's probably one in July.
Backlash.
Is there like an Evolve
Clash
one?
in Paris, Money in the Bank.
Okay.
Yeah,
he might be back for like Money in the Bank or something, you know? I don't think to like fight in Money in the Bank, but just to, I think that's when we start seeing him again, maybe.
Let me see. Let me pull up the PLE list again. I did this last show.
But yeah, no, like you said, so Roman, it was just, I couldn't believe they were doing it this fast. I couldn't believe, especially when Jay has the title match against Logan at Backlash. Just, my head was going, what's going on here? So when that's happening, I know Jay's not losing. You know, I know that Jay's not losing last night, but I couldn't imagine them having Seth lose. So I'm trying to figure out what's the way that everybody saves face. And I'm telling you, dude, we're getting, I mean, like I said, we're jumping all the way to the end, but we're getting a WWE Raw, at least Civil War. It's coming. Like Captain America Civil War. I'm telling you, we're getting it. So
yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if we do eventually see something like that. I like that shout. In terms of PLEs, we have Backlash coming up on the 10th. We have another Saturday night's main event coming up 2 weeks after that on the 24th. We have, this isn't main roster, but we have NXT Battleground on May 25th, the next day. This one I'm really excited for. We have to watch this together. But WWE Worlds Collide with AAA and NXT. That's going to be on June 7th. Also, by the way, just a little
that's why I said when I said Evolve, I thought that's what I meant, Worlds Collide.
Right.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, this Saturday night's main event on May 24th emanates from the Yuengling Center in Tampa, Florida, and Roman is from Florida. So wouldn't be terribly surprised if maybe he returns at a set. Because, you know, Saturday night's main event, they're trying to present it as the vintage throwback.
Right.
Like love of wrestling. And what better than like a classic tag match between some blood rivals. But then we have Money in the Bank, June 7th. That's in LA. Night of Champions, June 28th. That it says is in Saudi Arabia. So that could be a PLE for a big match. That could be where we see Gunther and Goldberg eventually.
See, and like I said, so I'm saying June 7th, I feel like he comes back or starts showing his face for Money in the Bank for something. Some match at Money in the Bank, like he comes and interferes or something. He shows back up, does a promo, but I feel like we're probably not going to see Roman Reigns until Money in the Bank.
Well, you know, I wouldn't be terribly...
Write it down.
You're saying until Money in the Bank. Okay.
I don't think we see or hear from him. I don't think anything. I can
see that. And it really just depends on where this world championship is going in terms of like, because more stuff to talk about later in the night that we don't know where it's going now. But anyways, let's get into the next match. Next match, we have Penta going up against JD McDonough, or as they're now dubbing him, the Iron Lung. Hey, I absolutely love that nickname, dude. I love it.
That was fun.
The Iron Lung is like, man, JD McDonough is going to have a really good babyface run whenever he finally breaks away from Judgment Day. He's gained a lot of support from the fans, and especially after that huge injury and making that big comeback from such a bad injury so quickly, might I add. Mm-hmm. Man, he's gained a lot of respect, and every time he goes out there, he probably won't necessarily win, but he puts on a great match basically every time he goes out there. So we get Penta getting the win over JD McDonough. At one point, it is like a 4v1 situation that Penta does overcome, and he ends up picking up the big win.
Right.
That's cool and all, but I want to talk about what is lurking in the shadows of Finn Balor. Because Finn Balor flubbed the interference attempt and ended up getting ejected from ringside. I don't know, man. I'll get your opinion before I give you my big breakdown of what I think could possibly happen. But what did you think of the? I know we love Penta, and it really feels like maybe we're setting up Penta and Rey Fenix. Hey, Matt, I think that you and I might have hit the nail on the head, and I think that we may be getting Penta and Rey Fenix going up against El Grande Americano and Chad Gable very soon. I think, dude, and imagine if it's at Worlds Collide, all the AAA talent, all the luchas, and you get Chad Gable in there. Oh, dude, he's gonna be booed out of the building. They're going to hate that man, and I want all of that, dude. And then at the end of the match, like we said, you can unmask El Grande Americano to show that he's somebody else, and who knows what could happen by that point or who it could be. But I really think that we're building up towards that tag match happening eventually. So I just want to say your third eye is starting to open, my friend.
No, look, here was my question about the Penta JD McDonough or Penta Iron Lung match. Where was Dom? You know, like we're talking about you know, or the schism between Dom and Finn and whatnot, but Dom and JD still seem like they're tight. So I was surprised as JD was wrestling that, you know, you got Carlito out there, you got Finn out there, but Dom's not out there, and Dom's nowhere to be seen during that. So that was kind of surprising. You know, I was just, you know, like, where's Dom? That was just my question. Where's Dom? You know, so that was, otherwise, that was a really good match. I thought it was entertaining. Gable coming out at the end, kind of, you know, and, you know, yeah, I guess, you know, but like, I don't get the mixing of all of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't get the mixing of the Judgment Day with Penta, with Gable, like all three. I get them separate, but when Gable comes out, it makes me wonder what that third element, how that's going to work, you know?
If I had to give my best guess, I think it's more or less a way, because I think that the big story is what I'm going to get to, but I think the big story is Finn. And I think the big story is Finn and Dom, to be honest. And so I think that WWE didn't want to just rip Penta away from what was going on, because it kind of was left unfinished at WrestleMania, and, you know, things haven't exactly been fair between Penta and the Judgment Day. And so what I really think is they're keeping that Gable and El Grande Americano angle open, so that way they can eventually seamlessly segue Penta out of that title scene for now. Because I think that, and it could be that we get Penta versus Dom, and Dom just retains in that, and that's the last we see of Penta in the Intercontinental title scene for now. And that's when we can really start to ramp up the El Grande Americano and Chad Gable's storyline and stuff like that. But I think what we may be gearing towards is what I think is obvious, is that Finn leaving the group, is Finn leaving Judgment Day. But what I think might...
Okay, so you, okay, because I think, like, back in the day, you used to pitch it to me more that everybody would turn on Dom and leave Dom. And now you feel like more that Finn just leaves the group entirely.
Well, I think that Dom still does kind of go through that, like, everybody's turning on me thing. I just don't think that Finn will be there for that. I think that Finn is, like, he's been consistently losing. He's been messing up his interference attempts. He hasn't really exactly been helping the group. He has no titles. So when you think about where he was when he initially joined Judgment Day, then being the leader, and now to where he is now, it seems like Dom is kind of taking the reins of the group. And when you look at the fact that Finn, I think he's going to leave the group. And initially I thought that maybe they were just going to kick him out and beat him down. But I think that maybe he's going to see the writing on the wall and eventually leave on his own. And I think that down the line is when we see Dom then starts, maybe when Dom eventually loses the title, then, you know, he and JD don't get along because JD is a Finn guy. JD is a Finn Balor guy. That's who trained him. And so Finn, once he leaves the group, maybe then JD is like, I'm not really feeling this anymore, or tensions start to build up. And now JD's got this new momentum behind him and a brand new nickname. And now he can leave the group and maybe go on a little singles run or something like that. And then Carlito is out of the group. And then all of a sudden Liv and Raquel start turning on him, and then he's all on his own. That could be down the line. But in terms of Finn, I think that Finn is the hotter storyline right now, because here, I actually wrote it down. Picture this. Set the scene.
Here we go.
Set the scene. Let's say that the this new faction between Seth, Braun, and Paul, they decide they want all the gold. They don't just want the World Heavyweight Championship. And let's say they get the World Heavyweight title. They get the World Heavyweight title, and then they decide, we want all the gold. And so they come out and they confront Judgment Day. And they're like, you've got something we want. We want that Intercontinental Championship. And now I have someone that's ready to take it from you right now. And Braun goes to step up. But before Braun does anything, Finn attacks Dom. And Finn turns on the group. And Finn aligns with Seth and Braun and Paul and gets added to that group. And now he can be pushed as this uber mega heel, and he can actually get a push and get that Intercontinental Championship away from Dom. And that can be what really starts the dissolvement of the group of the Judgment Day, because now you've had Damian leave, you've had Rhea leave, you had the R-Truth stuff happen, and now he's all gone. And then you have Finn leave, and not only leave, but now he takes your title. And then what if Liv and Raquel come back and they lose their titles again? And now all of a sudden, you've got this group that a year ago was on top of their game at the pinnacle of the business. And now they have no gold, nothing to show for it. They lose their clubhouse because nobody respects them. People start taking over their clubhouse. You saw AJ Styles showed up in the clubhouse this week and was like, oh yeah, so-and-so told me how to get here. It was pretty easy to find. What if we start seeing people not respecting their space anymore and taking over their clubhouse? Because what do you have? Who are you? You know, people, they walk in and people are playing cards at their table in their clubhouse or stuff. I think that maybe we could see, and I don't think Finn would be the last member to do it either. I think that Finn would be a nice, interesting piece to add to the group, and like another experienced member that you could add there that's got a lot of championship pedigree. But even if he doesn't join Seth's group, I think I'm seeing him turn on the group and leave off and go on his own and maybe eventually take that title away from Dom. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Hey, look, I can definitely see him, slow joining Seth's group. Like I said, we'll get more to that when we get to the end of the night. But yeah, no, I can see that.
And we'll be fantasy booking people joining the group until somebody actually does.
I mean, dude,
it's going to be forever.
I feel like we're gonna, we could almost draft teams at the end of the show. So
probably so. All right, so let's talk about the next match. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller backstage with Raw GM Adam Pearce. Grayson Waller says he wants an opportunity, and then when he finds out who the opportunity is against, he says, whoa. Maybe we should give this to Austin Theory, to my tag team partner. Therefore, obviously showing us, before we even know who it is, someone that Austin Theory does not want to face. Right. So he goes out, makes his entrance, and who else but the returning Celtic Warrior, Sheamus. I love to see Sheamus back. Former multiple-time world champion, almost a Grand Slam champion. He's only missing the Intercontinental title. And I think I was talking to you guys on the group text about it the other day, but I think Sheamus is 0-9 in Intercontinental title matches in his career. Yeah. So I feel it hard to believe that the 10th one is gonna. I feel it hard to believe that we're gonna get to 0-10. So I feel like the next time Sheamus goes after this, he probably will become a Grand Slam champion. And let's be real, Sheamus has been in the company for like 16 years now, so he's probably getting towards the end of his career, even though he's in great physical shape. But we get Sheamus back. Happy to see Sheamus back. And obviously Sheamus wins and a little bit of a beatdown. But the big story here is obviously the tension between Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And it seems that after all this time, it's finally coming to a head, because there's one thing about it. You can see the tension with your eyes, but when the commentators start talking about it, things are getting ready to amp up. And so the commentators have brought it up. The interviewers have brought it up. Everybody's bringing up the tension between Austin and Grayson. And you have to assume that it's coming to a head soon.
Yeah, no, soon. I mean, I'm surprised if Austin wasn't so beat to hell after that match, it probably would have come to head last night. You know, I mean, Sheamus just beat the ever-loving dog crap. And, and you can tell, it's one of those where, it's leaving the marks, it's leaving the marks all over the chest. And, that's a rough one when that's the case. So yeah, I feel for Theory, but this also makes me wonder how he would fit in Seth's corral. Cause I know he was an initial pick for a lot of people, was that Austin Theory would go with Seth. So this makes me wonder how he would fit, because you would feel like the heel side of that, Grayson Waller, would be the one then to go on Seth's side in a sense. So, just
I kind of feel, so I actually wrote this down. I see a lot of people that, what am I trying to say here? WWE under Triple H's regime is not so worried about the heel and babyface dynamic. They're not scared to do babyface versus babyface or heel versus heel or whatever. I don't necessarily think that one of these guys has to become a babyface out of this split. I think both guys can stay a heel. And I think that if Theory is destined to join the group with Seth and Braun and Heyman, that all of the actions that we've seen in this one, with Sheamus just being the latest, where Grayson Waller throws Austin Theory into the fire multiple times over and over repeatedly, if nothing else, this is justifying Theory's turn when he finally does it. He's like, I've had enough of you, dude. Like, and finally he just turns, and then Grayson Waller can go off and be the little snake that he is, making excuses. It wasn't my fault. I never meant to do this. Or
what does that do for Grayson Waller? Where does his story go? Because he becomes then a heel of heels in a sense, you know. Yeah. Like, I mean, he ain't got no New Day partner that still wants to work with him, even though everybody else hates him. You know what I'm saying? So where does Grayson Waller go then?
I would honestly, you know what I would love to see? I would love to see, if Theory is destined for the group again, I would love to see Seth just start, like, whenever Theory and Waller bicker in the back rooms and then Waller runs off, Seth just like walks up and just gives him a little subtle look and then walks off and doesn't say anything the first few times. But then finally, whenever there's like a blow up and it does happen, I don't know. Maybe Seth and Braun come out and they like tell Theory, all right, it's time to make a choice. And then they all just beat Waller down and give him some real sympathy. You know, maybe that could be where he goes. And then he could disappear for a while to sell the beat down. And then when he does come back, you can either revamp him or you can just go off the history with Theory and then have Waller come back as a babyface. And then boom, you get a feud right there. Maybe by that point, Theory is your Intercontinental Champion. And then you have a feud right there for the mid-card title that's got a lot of history built up. Literally almost half a decade of history between the two built up by that point.
Oh yeah, no, they're going to go at it at some point, and
at some point, yeah.
Theory's going to beat the ever-loving dog crap out of Grayson Waller.
That's what I really hope. I really hope that we get to see matches out of this feud and not just like a turn and then they go their separate ways.
Right.
You know,
right.
I really hope we get to see a match or two out of this, but who really knows? All right, so the Killer Cross promo is what we didn't see on here in the States because we get ads, and even when we don't get the ads when we watch it late, it just kind of skips where the ads would have been. So we don't see all the extra filler stuff on the side. So we didn't see the Karrion Kross promo, but we just watched it beforehand before we started. He talked a little bit about Sami Zayn and about how he didn't say whether he thought Sami joining was the right or wrong answer.
Yeah, he's staying away from that. You know, that's the second time that he's danced all around it, you know?
That's because I think he's going to tell Sami that he made the right choice by staying on Raw and like sticking to his guns, you know, and that's what I'm thinking at least. But what did you think about the promo and what is happening with Kross?
Look, like I said, I don't like Kross promos where it's just him. Maybe I need Kross to be doing something. Like I love it. I love it when he's interacting and I feel like he's planting seeds. Like this didn't feel like a seed planting one. This felt like kind of a repeat of last week. Because last week he came up to Sami Zayn and had that whole conversation about doing the right thing and not giving him one side or the other. Or when I walked away, I have no idea what side Kross wanted Zayn to go. And that's like you said, that's how I feel after this. I don't know what Kross is. I don't know what this one did. So maybe I'm okay with this not being on TV because I don't know what it added or subtracted. So educate me. What did I miss here?
No, I think that in terms of the promo, I think this was really just what it was. It was filler for a commercial.
Right.
I do see the internet community the consensus is that they like that he showed a little charisma. And
no, I love look, everything Kross has been doing lately. I love. I just don't know what the purpose of this one is. And then I'm wondering, like I said, when's he going to get on a mat? Because you know he hasn't wrestled. It feels like in forever. You know he hasn't even been ringside, but like once in the past month. I feel like So it's just I love all this, but what's it going to? What's it adding to? What's your end game here? It's been holding me for a while, but. And I guess I'm glad we didn't see this week because I would have been wondering, like, this didn't take me anywhere, and now I'm getting a little bored with it. You know, it's like I need you to take me somewhere with this. I need to see, like, if he went back at Sami, because I didn't know Sami was at Raw this week until he showed up. You know what I mean? So if he'd gone back at Sami and had this conversation with Sami or something, then maybe I'm like, all right, now he's trying to get in Sami's head. He's been trying to get in AJ's head. What's he trying to do here? You know?
Yeah.
You know, he hates Logan Paul. You know, like if he was in Jey Uso's ear, I don't know. I like it when I feel like Karrion Kross is doing something effective that's effective for WWE, but more importantly, getting his own agenda across, which I don't know what it is yet. This, I don't know what it did.
I kind of feel like, well, I did forget to mention, he did also reference the Killer in his promo, which is a throwback to his old persona, the Killer Kross.
Right.
And so, funny story, actually, I don't know if you know this, but yours truly actually interviewed Karrion Kross 8 years ago. Yeah. For back in the day, for the old thing I
Mhm.
was doing. But
Mhm.
yeah, interviewed Karrion about 8 years ago. But super nice guy, by the way. But yeah, I think his real name is Kevin. And yeah, so I think that again, we've talked about this at length, but when you look at what Karrion has done to the people that he's gotten in the ears of and what they've become on the other side of it, I just think that this thing with Sami Zayn is his ultimate goal to get to Jey Uso in the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that's what it has to boil down to. And if they're going somewhere else that I just don't see or don't notice, all right, we'll talk about it when we get there. But looking at it from the outside in and from this perspective, it looks like he is just going to use Sami Zayn to turn dark, and then we're eventually going to get Sami Zayn versus Jey Uso. And maybe Sami's not totally dark, but he's at least teetering on the line of like, he's like, look, dude, I at least have to have a match with you. And they set up the match, or like maybe Sami's just like, it's this mental tug of war that Karrion is going to send him into
I
that's
mean, look,
eventually going to cause this rift.
I'd love it if there was just a segment where Karrion and Seth sat down and you found out that they've been working psychological games together this whole time. I mean, I'm wondering what his end game is. Like you said, it's all psychological. He's getting into guys' heads, but he's getting into Sammy's head. Well, Seth's trying to get in Sammy's head in a sense. If you're not working together, and then he's trying to get in Jay's head, or trying, or trying to get, Seth's trying. It's like he's working towards the same things as Seth. So either they're working together, or I'm waiting for him to make some great move on Seth Rollins against him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or some way just like pull the plug. Like, Braun Breaker's been with me the whole time and you didn't know it. Something like that. I don't know. I don't know what his end game is right now. I'm curious, but like I said, I don't know what this promo did.
So I actually don't hate the shout of Karrion joining the group with Seth, because when you boil it down, you bring up their linear paths basically. You talk about how they're basically trying to get the same things. When you look at what their motivations have been also the last few weeks, what was Karrion's Cross' biggest hang up about AJ Styles losing to Logan Paul at WrestleMania? He didn't want to lose wrestling. He didn't want this social media star to come in and just think that he could be a wrestler. Right. You could say that he wanted to save wrestling.
Save wrestling. Yes, exactly. That's why I said that's why I'm saying they feel like they're running kind of parallel stories. So it'd be crazy if, like, in a month, they're both sitting down smoking cigars together in some back room. Paul Heyman walks in and it'd be like Seth hadn't told Paul that Karrion was in on it or something, Yeah. And that's how we all find out, is when when Paul finds out, I don't know, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, exactly. They're both trying to quote unquote save wrestling in some way.
I wouldn't hate it. And then, I like to fantasy book in my head way too far in advance, but Karrion could also be the guy that eventually dismantles the group from the inside out.
That's what I'm saying as well. Yeah. He could, like I said, pull the plug.
Because it could be, let's say we're talking years down the line, we're getting a Seth and Braun match eventually, probably at a main event at WrestleMania.
God, I thought, yeah, like I said, I'll wait till we get to that stuff. But
yeah. But what I was going to say was we could eventually see a Seth and Karrion match, even at a WrestleMania, for something to do with that group if Karrion is a member of it. So I like that little shout. And what could be the outcome of that and the ramifications of it. All right. Let's talk about Lyra and Becky, another face-to-face here. Lyra, I think you said you're a fan of. She's fast, she's nimble, she's quick. And it seems like even with Lynch seemingly having the upper hand over Lyra after the heel turn and all that, it seems like Lyra has got the upper hand over the vet these last 2 weeks, which makes me really scared that Becky's taken the title at Backlash.
Becky's taken the title, but that was Lyra's best mic work that I've seen yet. So that was great. Really nice to see. Like, I feel like Becky's going to take it and Lyra might take it back. As you said, these titles, we'll see, we'll see what happens with these new titles, but I mean, that was great mic work by Lyra. She came at Becky. She came at her hard. And that's what you got to do. Because I mean, she's Becky Lynch, she's the man. So I mean, she's done everything at this point. So
except win those mid-card titles.
Exactly.
And she's and Lyra's in the way. Yep.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I feel like Becky's probably going to take it. But this is just going to swirl that bad blood. And like I said, first Bayley's probably going to come first for Becky and lose, I feel like, and then Lyra will come for Becky again and win and get it back, and then who knows where the story goes. But that, like I said, if I'm pre-booking or whatever, I go Becky beats Lyra, beats Bailey, loses to Lyra. And then I guess then what, you got to have one more match, or traditionally you'd have to have that donut match or whatever.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you're right and Becky wins and then Bailey comes back and Becky beats Bailey. And then maybe we see a triple threat between all three of them at SummerSlam for the title or something like that. There could be involved. To talk about the mic work that you mentioned, I have some quotes here from Lyra. She says to Lynch, "You're the queen of recycling. You've been recycling the same moves and same tired act for years." She goes on to say, "I've been defending this title more days than you've come to work this year." And I'm like, "Ooh, man."
I'm telling
like
you,
you said, dude, she was cooking last night.
She was cooking. No, he said that was some great mic work, like I said, and pointing out that she was the first and everything. Wait, Lyra's the first, title holder, for this one. Not you, Becky. I'm the new first. Like, bring it. So
yeah.
Look, like I feel like their match is going to be brutal at Backlash. I feel like that's really what I'm hoping for at Backlash. As I said, like the three matches I know are happening. This, the Cena Orton, and the Jay Logan Paul. I hope all three are bloody and brutal. Like I said, I hope Jay beats Logan Paul like to a pulp. I hope this one gets all crazy and nuts. And obviously we want Cena and Orton to get crazy and nuts. So I think that might be the one thing Backlash has going for it. I feel like there's real vitriol and like real hate in these matches. So
I'm trying to pull up the official match card for Backlash.
Do they have it finalized yet?
I mean, I'm sure for the most part.
Right.
Let me see. No, go back. All right. So officially for Backlash, we have for the undisputed WWE Championship, John Cena defending against Randy Orton. For the Women's Intercontinental title, we have Lyra defending against Becky. Fatal 4-way title for the 4-way match for the U.S. title.
Oh, yeah,
Fatu.
That too.
Fatu defending against LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest.
Hate. Yep.
Singles match for the Intercontinental title, Dom versus Penta. And then Gunther versus Pat McAfee. It's a lot of hate there. So that's the match that you should probably expect some blood. You might see McAfee bleeding, to quote JR, Jim Ross, you might see Pat McAfee bleeding like a stuffed pig.
The only one I don't feel like has enough hate is the Dom Penta one, but I know that's going to be a great match still. I'm not saying, I'm not knocking that match by any means. I'm just saying, like, Dom really needed to be. I don't know why Dom wasn't on Raw this week. Why was Dom not out there? I just, all right. So, but all those matches, like that's one thing Backlash might have. I call it hate lash, maybe, or hate fest. This feels like hate fest. I mean, none of these guys, there's no love for any of these guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I love Backlash for the last 2-3 years has been an excellent PLE. And this is the first time in, I think, 3 years that it's been in the States. So they've got a lot of hype to live up to. Cause I think last year was France. I think the year before that was Puerto Rico. And I think I'm missing one that was out of the States as well. But I'm kind of glad that we're back to 5-match PLEs, because as much as we loved WrestleMania, I think there was a little bit of a hangover, and we talked about them moving WrestleMania up too far or back too long or whatever. I think even if you had moved it up 1 week, so that way everybody could have a week to have that WrestleMania like come down, to be like, man, we just consumed Friday Night SmackDown, WrestleMania, Raw.
It's more than just WrestleMania. It was a SmackDown and the Raw bookends, yeah.
Hall of Fame, NXT PLE, the roast that they did after WrestleMania Night 2. Mm-hmm. So it's like they did so much stuff, and then Monday Night Raw, and then you're back to NXT. And so I think that people really needed some time to cool off. And I think going back to the 5-match PLEs is going to be good, because then you're able to give the matches more time to cook and marinate and really hit their spots and get the crowd involved. And the crowds are more invested, because if you have 10 matches, you're like, well, I got to conserve my energy for the 8th and the 9th and the 10th match, because those are the matches I'm looking forward to the most. But if you have 5 matches, you're going to give your all as a fan, all 5 matches.
Speaking of, Omaha last night was cooking. That was a great crowd last night.
Yes, dude. Yeah, and the wrestlers acknowledged it quite a few times, and they really impressed, because you think Omaha, Nebraska, and I don't know that many people think avid wrestling, but I mean, they had Matt Rule in the house, they had the Cornhuskers football team in there, so it was a fun night. You're right, I agree with you. The crowd was excellent last night. All right, let's talk about a match that was excellent, and that was Io Sky against Roxanne Perez. Now, Matt, I don't know how big you are on Roxanne Perez, but I hope this match, if you weren't too high on her, gave you a little more respect for She is grit and grind from the Texas scene. I have a lot of friends who came up in the business with her. So really happy to see her getting matches on Monday Night Raw against the women's champion. But I thought the match was really fun. I love the fact that 2 matches in a row now, it looks that Roxanne Perez is going to become a little bit of that, she's feisty and can fight or whatever, but it looks like she's also a little bit of a technician in the ring, attacking the legs 2 weeks in a row now. So I like her using her size. And just because you're not facing I was thinking this during the match last week against Rhea, it made sense to attack the legs because you got to chop down the tree per se. But just because you face someone that's your size doesn't mean you have to switch up your mentality. Just because Io Sky's a smaller competitor, if you take out her legs, she can't fly.
Yeah, no, she can't jump. Yeah, no, that's what she does. Yeah, no, that's what she does.
So I love the chemistry. I love the what's the word I'm looking for? The storytelling and the there's one word I can't find, but I love the structure of this match and the way that it was. And I think that Roxanne's a future superstar in this company. And so we saw eventually Io Sky, of course, did get the win. I don't think there was any way that anybody thought she was taking this L here. But with Rhea Ripley being off in Australia to promote the PLE in Perth, then Io was all alone. So she was all alone to the beatdown of Roxanne Perez and Julia back up from NXT. Again, it looks like she might be a mainstay for a while. And they did confirm the tag match at Backlash. Well, I think it was at Backlash. But, next week. Next week, they confirmed the tag match. My bad. It's going to be Roxanne Perez and Julia against Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. So continuing the Rhea Ripley, Io Sky friendship, frenemies, storyline. So Matt, I just wanted to give the breakdown before I asked your opinion, but tell us what you think about all this and what you look forward to next week in this tag match.
Well, first of all, how many BWEs do you do before you're WWE, not NXT anymore? You know what I mean? Like when do we turn and quit looking at Roxanne Perez as an NXT star and look at her as a WWE up and comer? I guess when.
See, I'm already there with her. I think that I still consider Julia NXT because I think that this is more like a side quest for Julia.
I just didn't know if there was like an official promotion or whatever like that they get. I mean, it's like, is Roxanne Perez officially on the WWE roster?
I think
now?
Roxanne's main roster. Yeah, okay. Roxanne is main roster. Now, also, I think that
does that mean like when they come up, what happens to their titles and whatnot?
Well, typically they would still just do both shows until they lost the title.
Okay.
But the good thing is that nobody outside of Stephanie Bacquer has any of those championships.
That's what I was wondering. I knew Stephanie still had one, and her and Julia and Roxanne have been on the last. Well, Stephanie wasn't on this one, but
I will say though, Roxanne was called up before WrestleMania. She got called up earlier in the year. They just still had her integrated into some NXT storylines.
No, she was in the Rumble or something. Wasn't she in the Rumble?
She was in the Rumble, but she got called up as a Raw superstar earlier in the year.
Okay. I didn't know because we keep referring to them as NXT, so I didn't know.
Well, I just mainly mean Julia. Julia's the NXT one here, yeah. But I think just to cut you off for half a second because you brought up a good point about seeing the debuts a lot. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of the debuts and then they're here for 3 months and then they're back down to NXT because of the Topps agreement with the Raw and SmackDown debut patches. They want those patches for their superstars to put into the cards. And so I think I think that's going to be a big contributor to it though. Because then you can cut up that, let's say like Julia for her debut, let's say she put it on the pocket specifically, you could cut up the pants, the whole set of pants, and you can throw that into 100 cards. And then you have your one that has the patch with the debut on it, and it just builds up. It's just extra marketing, in my opinion. That's what I would say. But
I mean, this was a great match. I don't know enough about Perez's character beforehand or whatever. Like she's always seemed just like for me, just like an up and comer with a lot of talent. Since she's joined the main roster. So I don't know if she's babyface or heel. I don't know much about her background, but I was kind of surprised like after the match ended because you get the handshake, you get this, like, I thought we were getting some mutual respect here with Io, and then here comes Julia, and now her and Roxanne are beating down Io again. Like you said, there's no Rhea to come in and quote unquote at least even the odds. I'm not going to say save the day because Io would not think she needed to be saved probably, but no, it's I don't know. I mean, I guess they're trying to make her a heel. I mean, is she?
I think Roxanne's been a heel for a while.
Is she, okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know enough about her character to know what what she is. For me,
Yeah, she was a babyface for a while, but then she's been heel now for probably about 2 years, give or
okay.
take.
Because I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, she like I said, I know that they both like beaten up on Io and Rhea like the previous 2 weeks or something. It feels like every week after a match, there's a further beatdown. I just
Yeah.
didn't know where Roxanne fell on this. I don't know what her story, what they're trying to do with her.
No, because Roxanne had a rivalry with Bailey in NXT,
Okay.
and then Julia kind of got integrated into it, and then they kind of abandoned all that, and it kind of just got forgotten about, and just like not forgotten about, but they were just like, we're just gonna stop talking about it and hope you guys forget. So
See, I like the moment where her and Io had like of respect. I felt like in the ring, and then when it just fell
well, that was
apart.
all just a ploy to get Io to turn her back and drop her guard.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I know,
yeah.
but I mean, that's my thing. It's like I felt like that was like a moment of maturity. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I've been bad, but look, we did just have a great slobber knocking match. Maybe
Well, let me see. How old
you know
is Roxanne Perez? Because
she's
when
young.
I think she's 24. She was born 2001, so she'll be 24 this year. She's 23. So like, I hate to be like, like cynical and logical, but like, of course she's immature. She's 23. She
Well,
just got called up.
But I mean, but she's 23 and she's supposed to be a young baby face. That's what
Well,
I'm saying.
Even Lyra is a babyface, but she doesn't take crap from Becky. She's like, oh, shucks, Becky. I wish you respected me more.
Right. But she wouldn't shake Becky's hand in the middle of the ring and then have Bailey come knock her from the back.
Well, no, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like the point I'm trying to make is that she's young and she's just trying to, do whatever it takes to get in front of the business. And also Roxanne is she's just a conniving little heel. She's just a little, she's a backstabber. She don't like anybody except Julia, I guess.
Like I said, that's why I thought for a second, like maybe her and Io were going to come to some grand new whatever understanding. I don't know. I have no idea where this women's division is going. I find it immensely interesting. As I've said, I think like the Raw women's division is top notch. Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, the frenemy right now with Rhea and Io, you've got, obviously Bianca still there waiting in the wings. You've got, like I said, all these NXT / newly crowned WWE ladies, and and then you've still got like Liv Morgan and whatnot, and Raquel. Yep. So, like I said, the women's side is fascinating. I'm curious what they do with Roxanne. She's a great talent. So, what are they doing with her? Where's she going? That's just my question, because she's fighting for she ain't fighting for the mid cards. You know what I mean? She's fighting right now in the women's whatever heavyweight champion.
I think she's destined for a feud with Rhea, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I could see like a little mini feud with her. It feels like she's going to get the loser, whoever's not the world champion after this, and is the leftover babyface. And that is going to be Rhea Ripley. And I think that a large part, you and I talked about like last week, are Rhea and Io friends? And I really don't think it's necessarily like a friends, but I like the frenemies thing we said. Right. But I think it's more so about after WrestleMania, we need to establish to the audience that Rhea is 100% a babyface, and there's no doubt about it. We need her to be a top babyface, and that's what this is doing. She's helping out the top babyface. And this is a way to, I think, alleviate some of that doubt that people had about, is Rhea a heel or is she a face? I think this is a way to show the audience, like, look, Rhea is a heel, and she does not need the title to be a top babyface on this brand. And I think that's what it's really about establishing, in my opinion. But all right, we're going to talk about the next match because it won't take us long. Otis versus Rusev. Rusev, of course, is going to be on a little bit of a dominating streak since he just returned to the company recently. And just like we've talked about multiple times, the Alpha Academy is prime for the picking in terms of returning people or people that need to be squashed and they are enhancement talent. By definition, they are enhancement talent. So this is his first match on Monday Night Raw since February of 2020. And yeah, I mean, we kind of know what it is. It was a squash. And then right when Rusev went to go beat down Otis again, I did like to see Tozawa kind of step up, even though he is obviously much smaller. I did like hey, look, man, I'm not scared of you. Like, you're going to whoop me, but I'm not scared of you, and I'm not going to let you do this. And I saw it coming when he backed off and then came back and did the attack again. But I do like this, and I think maybe we eventually might see a 2 versus 1. We might see a handicap match against Rusev versus Otis and Akira Tozawa. So, yeah, I mean, one thing I will say before we move on, I like that Otis gets so much love from the crowd. He's just kind of over everywhere he goes, and I like that about him. But you got anything to add here?
I went and looked when the last time Otis won a match. And it's like, Otis won a match on October 1st against Pete Dunne. He then won a match previously on October 20th against Pete Dunne. So now I got to look and see when's the last time Otis won a match that wasn't against Pete Dunne.
Yeah, we gotta find that out. You know, hey, Otis, former Mr. Money in the Bank, never did anything with it, but he was a Mr. Money in the Bank.
I just feel bad for Otis. I feel bad for Otis.
To be honest with you, dude, I've seen him. I don't know him, but I've seen him on his personal socials, and he's like a very appreciative person. I think he's very happy to be where he is.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you're the WWE.
He got whooped last night. He got whooped last night. That was so bad.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. That I think it's called the Redeemer, the submission that that Rusev does. It's just a camel clutch like the Iron Sheik used to do. But man, that move is so brutal. I like that they gave that back to him.
And it's got to be real brutal on a guy like Otis who's squat and built like that. Like, if you got a little length, you might be able to bend a little more. I don't think there's much bend in Otis that way.
There's not much bending for a guy that's this big naturally.
Yeah. That big and that compact in a sense, So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, up next, Pat McAfee and Gunther face to face in the ring. And I gotta say, dude, I really loved this. I loved his promo last week, and I loved the fact that he kind of was saying what he wanted to say until Gunther stepped up and was like, all right, you just woke me up a little bit. Now I'm going to kick your ass. And I loved that about it. A few things that I love that he said, I got a few quotes, was McAfee saying, you don't want it anymore. You've gotten too damn comfortable. And when he said that, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what Gunther's character needed. And I think this was excellent. A+ for me. I think this segment was perfect and exactly what they needed. I didn't want to see them get physical because we all agree, I think, that this match should basically be a squash and it should just be Gunther absolutely destroying Pat McAfee. And if Pat is going to get any offense in, maybe one or two moves, and that's absolutely it.
He'll get a move like in the first 2 minutes and that'll be it.
He'll make or maybe in the middle of the match, he'll make like a little rally where he lands like a few hits and we kind of think like he's going to make a comeback, and then Gunther just slaps him and that's it. And so the last quote that Gunther dropped that I really loved, because it was, he said something along the lines of like, after you said all this, you've woken me up now. You've given me new purpose. And he said, Saturday, only by the grace of God will I lift my arms off of your throat. And I was like, Gunther's going to kill this man, bro. Gunther's going to kill this man. But yeah, I love what they're doing here. Obviously, no one expects Pat to win, but we know what we can kind of expect. And mad respect to Pat for going out there and doing what needs to be done, because I think this is going to be brutal.
Yeah, no, it will be. It should be. But I'm with you across the board. This promo made me more excited for this match because like I said, I was really just kind of mixed on it to begin with. I like the fact that, like you said, McAfee pissed Gunther off. I like the fact, like you said, that he said about him being too comfortable. I remember he also said something like, this is a dream for all of us. For you, it's become a job or something like that.
Yep. I loved that.
And that's such a relatable line too, when the dream becomes a job, because that is a heartbreaking moment when you realize, like we were just talking about with Otis. Otis had the time of his life. He's still living the dream. It's not a job. Who cares if he's winning or losing? He's living the dream,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, like when the dream becomes a job, that's always painful when that realization comes in. So really, really good promo by McAfee, really good promo by Gunther. But yeah, no, if this should be a squash match. There will be blood, hopefully. If you could lose a tooth, if McAfee was already missing a tooth sort of thing, this would be the time where like I would pay to whatever, be like, look, we'll replace your fake tooth. We'll replace it.
Right.
Gunther's going to knock that fake tooth out of your face. That's the kind of match I feel like this is going to be.
They're like, here, we're going to knock out your fake tooth. Here's a $25,000 PLE bonus. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll make it right. There you go. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is going to be brutal. It's obviously not the first match that Pat's been involved in the WWE, but every time he goes out there, it's entertaining, if nothing else. So I think this will be pretty fun. Let's talk about something else that was pretty fun. Let's get into the main event. World Heavyweight Championship. Jey Uso defending against Seth freaking Rollins. Now, earlier in the night, we talked about it already, but Heyman, getting Jey Uso to agree to the deal. One thing I did forget to mention in that was saying that the next goal on the to-do list of this new group, this new faction, was getting the World Heavyweight Championship from Jey Uso. So they have made it clear that's their number one goal. That is what they're after. They are after that championship for Seth Rollins. Now, will CM Punk and Roman Reigns getting in the way kind of deviate that path a little bit? That's what I'm hoping, and that we don't get Seth really involved in the World Championship scene. That's kind of what I'm hoping that this was. But Anyways, so they say they laid out the plan for the Visionary to get the World Heavyweight Championship. Let's see. Yeah, and there's a lot of interference in this match, too. Sami Zayn showed up. CM Punk showed up. Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman were, of course, at ringside. Braun Breaker was laying out spears to everybody that could take one. It was a really fun match. Rollins does end up getting the win, technically, by disqualification because CM Punk ran in and attacked him. So CM Punk technically did get a win over the World Heavyweight Championship in the main event of Monday Night Raw. But if nothing else, I think this match was excellent and it kept everybody safe. Nobody had to eat a pin. Nobody looked bad coming out of it. I thought it was an excellent way to end Monday Night Raw. And I just kind of wish we had something that we were doing with this on Backlash. But again, you push back WrestleMania so far, excuse me, you only have so much of a build. It happens. So I don't know if maybe we're getting more of this at Saturday night's main event, because that seems to be where they love to put Jey Uso, maybe to bump up some of those ticket sales because they already know the PLEs will sell well. I don't know. What do you think? I think that we can agree it was a great segment, but I guess I'm more interested in asking where you see things going after this main event.
Well, here's my one criticism to the whole thing is that I thought Seth looked weak. I don't like that he's putting together this faction. And I know the idea is for the heel to win, sometimes you've got to have a distraction or something, yada, yada, yada. But Seth's not that kind of heel. I feel like Sammy should have saved Jey more than Braun should have helped Seth. You know what I'm saying? And there were moments in that match where I thought Braun was looking at Seth like he was weak. Like I was waiting for Braun to almost turn on Seth at that point. Like, why am I following you when I'm the guy? I'm really the guy. I'm the guy. Like, you want to take a spear from me, Seth? You want... so I wanted Seth to look stronger in that match. I didn't want, without making Jey look weak, I didn't want Jey look, but I felt like, who do you think wins that match if nobody shows up?
I mean, I'd like to say, just putting my booking hat on.
Well, who do you feel like was winning, just given the how the match was going? Who do you feel like was winning? Because I know a wrestling match can go any way still at that point. But who felt like they had the upper hand to you most of that match?
See, here's the thing, Matt. It's tough sometimes to answer that because sometimes I can, based on the order that spots are happening in a match, sometimes I can call the rest of a match 5 minutes in. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard for me. From the jump, I always felt like Jey Uso was going to win because I never felt like there was any chance they would take the title off of Jey this quick.
Right.
Not saying that they wouldn't do it because they've literally taken the title off of guys 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Have held world championships for 24 hours. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised. I would be surprised, but I'm not shocked, I guess. But I would say that Jey should have won this the whole time. But I get the sentiment that you're coming with, is that Seth shouldn't have needed the help to beat Jey Uso. But I do think that this is going to sound like a cop-out answer. I do sometimes feel like that you have to suspend your belief in reality when it comes to certain things. And I think that this match was more so geared towards proving that Jey Uso could hang with the main eventers like Seth Rollins instead of making Seth Rollins look strong because he just beat CM Punk and Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania. Jey just tapped out Gunther at WrestleMania. So there's that divide too.
But I feel like if you're trying to make this Seth Rollins, whatever group scary, you got to have Seth go out there and beat the crap out. Maybe not to the extent that Braun beat Sammy, last week. But okay, the way I would rather seen this was I would rather seen Seth look stronger. I would have rather had Seth throw, Jey out the ring, Sammy come out and be helping him up, helping him stand up, and then Braun hit Sammy with the spear, whatever, maybe then some distraction to throw Jey back in the ring, and Seth's about to pin him. And then you bring out Punk, I feel like, like I said, if you're trying to sell me, I feel like they made Jey look too strong and they made the new Seth coalition look a little weak,
So I get where you're coming from. And I think that, I don't want to say you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong because that's just the way that you would have liked to see it, right? In my mind, I see it more so as it's not Seth's job to make them look strong. You know what I mean? He's the architect. He puts everything in place and builds everything. And the muscle is Braun. Braun is who makes the group look scary. Seth is not there to be scary. Seth is there to be conniving and manipulative and the puller of strings behind the scenes. Braun is the dog that he sicks on guys to take care of the dirty work. So I get what you're saying, but I think that we are also really early on and that a lot of your stresses with that will be alleviated as we see them more and more. Because you got to think, Seth, while he is a heel, we only saw his first real evil action last week when he curb stomped Sammy.
Right.
And so I think that this is going to be a little bit of a process for him. And by the time SummerSlam rolls around, he's going to be an evil, conniving villain that you're going to look back on this pod and be like, well, I was right, but he did eventually get there. So I get where you're coming from, but I think that we're going to have a lot of those stresses alleviated as the time comes.
All right, but look, the grossest part of the main event was CM Punk coming out. And then after clearing the ring with a chair, standing there like bloody George Washington crossing the Delaware, pointing at Seth like bloody Captain America. This, like I said, this is Civil War. You've got your two captains. Like I said, it's not the championship belt holders. It's not going to be anyone. This is still Seth versus Punk. And I hate that Punk is the good guy. Like, how is Punk the good guy? Like, he's everything Seth says he is, man. God, how is Punk the good guy? The guy who turned his back, who's only there for the money, you know? Oh, he's not there to make friends. Oh, I mean,
he did say he was only out there for the money. He was there to make money.
Look, this is, and like I said, so I think we're seeing a split down the middle of Raw. I mean, you got Punk, you got Uso, you got Sammy, you got Seth, you got Braun, you got Paul, you got somebody's coming. Get ready. This is going to be however you want to look at it. Like I said, this is Captain America's Civil War. This is two groups that you like that's going to get split down the middle, and some of the divisions might not make sense, you know, and some guys might switch sides, like you said, you know. If it wasn't for the fact that Seth just went after Jay's title, like I said, I could see Jay beating the crap out of Logan and just going full dark side, and Seth coming and just laughing behind him going, yes, more, come join me. But now I don't see it happening, you know? I don't. I can see Jay and CM Punk turning on Sammy in some way, or something happening and Sammy going to Seth. I can still see that happening for some reason. But like now I feel like Jay and CM Punk are permanently cemented on that side. Whatever side Seth and Braun are on, Jay and CM are going to be on the other one now. I don't know. I don't like that CM Punk is the quote unquote hero right now. I don't like that he's Captain America. I don't like that. So
I just wonder where we're going. Like what the end goal is. Like, are we going to build this all up all year until we get War Games in November, you know, or
what's the biggest side-on-side match they've had? I know they've done 3-on-3, they've done like 6-on-6 or something like that.
I mean, you could look throughout history and probably find some big ones, but in terms of like big, like matches that actually mean something, it's probably like the 5-on-5s.
Okay.
Like Eliminate or a Survivor Series used to have, and I hate that they got away with it, because Survivor Series used to be about brand versus brand. That was all it was. So you would put your world champions from both brands against each other, your middle champions from both brands against each other, your tag champs against each other, your women's champs, so far and so on. And then on top of that, you would have 5-person traditional Survivor Series 5-on-5 matches, 5 from SmackDown, 5 from Raw, and then it was elimination style. So it could come down to 5v1 or 2v2, and so Randy Orton was made infamous for that because he was the sole survivor like 7 times in Survivor Series or something like that. And they got away with that because they switched to the War Games method. So War Games used to be a thing in WCW. It disappeared for like 20 years or something like that. And then NXT brought it back when Triple H was in charge of NXT. Shout out to Bryce Boudreaux. But Bryce and I actually went to War Games in Houston in like 2017, I think it was. So they brought that back. They got rid of the elimination style tag match. But I heard that we're not getting War Games this year. I heard that they're going to give it a year to rest. And I think that we might get that traditional 5-on-5 again. And I hate to say it, but that simplistic match style always drew me in at Survivor Series. Like, Rumble is my favorite PLE of the whole year. I obviously love WrestleMania. I like Money in the Bank a lot. But for some reason, Survivor Series, the 5-on-5 traditionals, for some reason, just always won me over, and I always loved them so much, and I would like to see us get back to that. And maybe that's what we're building at. We get like a big civil war where it's CM Punk's 5 versus Seth Rollins' 5 somewhere down the line, or maybe we get Seth and Punk in a Hell in a Cell match somewhere down the line. I would like to see that too.
I want Survivor Series in a cell. That's what I want.
You want 5-on-5 in a cell?
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, but then you
not?
start to wonder. Well, then you start to wonder: is that basically War Games, though?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But
yeah,
5-on-5 in a cell, and getting out of the cell, you don't win if you get out. It's just in a cell. There's no.
Yeah, well, you would have to do a Hell in a Cell, and so it's just for some little I don't even know what word I'm looking for, but to drop some knowledge on you. Steel cage matches are the only way you can win by escaping. But if you get like a Hell in a Cell match, escaping doesn't give you a win.
All right.
Yeah, and I kind of hope that they get away from the whole like escaping the cage is a win for a steel cage match, because to me it kind of like I don't want to say it like defeats the whole purpose, but it's like it just gives you an easy trope to go back to every time, is the smarmy heel just wants to escape every time. And I don't necessarily love that trope. I want to see a steel cage match be like, damn it, now I'm locked in here with this dude and I have no choice but to stay, and it's like for War Games, if you escape the cage, you lose the match. I like that. I like being like, all right, look, you can dip if you want, but you forfeit the match. And if it's a championship, you're not gonna jump out.
See, I want a Survivor Series Elimination Chamber Hell in a Cell. That's what I want. 5-on-5, guys coming out every couple minutes, Hell in a Cell.
They just got to build. They got to take the War Games, which is 2 rings, and they've just got to build enough pods around the whole thing to get enough people. And you're taking away like 1,000 seats by doing that. But yeah, no, I thought this episode of Raw was pretty good. I liked it overall. I think Bleacher Report gave it like a B+, and I think that's probably pretty good. I don't think it was a perfect show, but I think there was a lot to be desired in terms of the go home and the build towards Backlash.
Well, let's talk about the final scene that we didn't get to see then. Like I said, so afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Nobody gets to see. You said we saw on the extras that Jay's going around high-fiving the crowd. And who's in the crowd? But Logan Paul in the hoodie, because that's what you got to be now. If you the hoodie is now it's the Marvel version of the hat and the baseball cap and sunglasses. It's as long as you're wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, nobody knows who you really are. Now it's the hoodie, and Logan drops the hoodie after dropping Jay, and that's great. Why didn't we get to see it? Because that's the buildup we need for that feud. Why did we get to see it? I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either. I'm all for like having extra stuff that happens after the show. That happens all the time. But this just seemed so pivotal to witness firsthand live on air. And I guess I'm not, while I am frustrated we didn't see it live, I guess a lot of that is alleviated because at least it's not happening at Backlash. Like at least it's not Logan and Jay happening at Backlash, and we didn't get to see this on the last time that they'll get to interact before the PLE. That's why I kind of feel like this match may be a Saturday night's main event, style match. And maybe, again, Jay is just there to push ticket sales.
I mean, are they not going? They're not going Backlash for sure?
Nope, they're not. No, so it's going to be Cena Orton. It's going to be Lyra Becky, Gunther Pat, the United States Fatal 4-Way, and then the IC title between Dom and Penta.
I'm surprised they're not putting this Jay Logan in Backlash.
I'm telling you, I think it's just going to be on Saturday night's main event 2 weeks after. So give it a little bit more of a build. That's where it kind of feels like that they, it's obviously not quite. But like I said, when I look at Dom and Penta, I look at the Fatal 4-Way, I look at Gunther and Pat, Lyra, Becky, and then Cena Orton. It kind of feels like they're going to start splitting up a lot of these stories because it's smart when you really think about it. It makes every week must see.
CBS Sports has a Backlash. They got 2 more matches that they think might happen or something. I'm
looking at the same one. They think that we're going to get Tiffany and
Nia, and then a women's 4-way.
See, I mean, maybe
I don't think the women's 4. I don't think Rhea's back yet. So I don't think we're getting the women's 4-way. But who knows? I mean,
Well,
That's
look
why.
here. Well, they said that they think they're getting the. This must be an older article because I'm looking at the same one. It's from 4 hours ago. But the tag match between Julia
Oh, not a
and
four-way. My bad.
Roxanne,
Tag match. That's what I meant. That's
that's
what I
already
meant.
been announced for next week on Raw.
Right.
So
So that's
there's
not
no way we're getting that one.
right.
I don't think we're getting either of these. Look, we're going to be doing a Backlash predictions episode for YouTube, or just a video for YouTube in general, and we'll guess the Tiffy and Nia one just in case. I think you and I are probably pretty agreed on who's going to win that one, anyways. But that feels like a Saturday night's main event one for me as well. So I don't see either one of those. So I think the 5 matches that are out are probably official. I think that's probably going to be the card.
All right. I mean, I feel like there's still a chance Logan and Jay pop on there. I don't know. Maybe they don't. Because when is that going to happen then?
Saturday night's main event.
You think that's a Saturday? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the. Hey, who else to build the show around? Who else to build Saturday night's main event around than main event Jey Uso? Yeah, it's his. All of a sudden, it's his show. Then later down the year, you can do a Jey Uso themed Saturday night's main event where it's Saturday night's main event, but the main event is in his font and has his style of decoration, all that stuff. And I just think that maybe that's what they're doing. Like I said, WWE is shying away from the long title reigns to create legacy, and they're relying on, all right, we're not scared to shuffle this title around, or we're not scared to have this person in the spotlight. And what better way to have Jey Uso solidify himself as a main eventer than make Saturday night's main event his event? Make it like every time there's a Saturday night's main event, Jey Uso's here. And I kind of like that idea.
4 of the 5 Backlash matches are championship matches. The only one that's not's the McAfee Gunther. That's pretty crazy.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy.
Well, and that is also going to happen. You got a lot of titles jumping around. You have a lot of titles floating around the scene right now. And that unfortunately means that a lot of titles are not going to make PLE matches either. That we're going to, again, they're spreading all this out over Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown to make each week, you can't miss it. Like we haven't gone 2 weeks in the year of 2024 without or 2025 without a title change on some programming. So you have to watch everything. And I do kind of like that. But I really don't see, because at this point, if you throw Jay and Logan on to the PLE, when are you going to do it? The opportunity has passed unless you, for some reason, have them show up on SmackDown, which I don't see happening. I think the time to make the match would have been last night. And I think maybe you could have done the Logan Paul segment earlier in the night after the Paul Heyman segment where he's like,
I thought we were going to get, that's where, I mean, like I said, let's remember when Jay called Logan out and Paul came out, so the wrong Paul.
I would have been, right. I would have been happy seeing the Logan Paul knockout segment at the beginning of the night to kind of just feed more into the like, all right, now I just got knocked out. I have this match against Seth Rollins, and I got Logan Paul breathing down my back. You stack all the odds against Jay to have him, he didn't win, but to have him still look strong in the end. And then you can have Logan Paul come out and attack him again at the end of the night, laying him out. And now we have even more of a build towards the match at Saturday or at Backlash, which makes me feel like we're not getting an impromptu match this weekend. So I think it's going to have a few more weeks of a build. I'd be surprised if it's not a Saturday night's main event if they push it back any further. But that's just my 2 cents. What do I know? All right, Matt, anything that you have to say before we get out of here?
No, like I said, we got a Backlash show we got to do eventually, I guess sooner when we get closer to it.
Our top 10 lists are coming out.
We got to rip this AliExpress stuff, soon. So we can see.
Yeah, little stay on the lookout for that, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, go check out the socials. And give us some comments. Let us know what you think. Like I said, we told you what we think. Where we know you're booking this. Where do you think it's going? Where's Seth going? Where's, like I said, what's happening with Austin Theory and Grayson Waller and whatnot? What's happened with these guys?
All right, Matt.
Let us know in the comments.
Little maybe a spoiler alert for your top 10 list. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Or you could just even name one right now. It doesn't even really matter.
I mean, like Hulk? I mean, Andre the Giant?
Okay, say Andre the Giant. So for anybody who has listened to this point in the show, if you can tell me in the comments Matt's favorite wrestler that he just named, then we'll give you a shout out at the beginning of the next episode.
All right.
There you go. Free shout out for you at the beginning of the next episode. I know my boy Donnie's going to be listening. So Donnie, here's your shout out now. You don't count. No. All right. So for Matt and Casey, this has been the Tailgate Kings, and we'll see you guys next time. We're out of here.
We're out.